Hello and welcome to part 2 of my warm-up tutorial. I have a previous post on how I warm my horse up at the walk. That is part 1, so scroll down on my news feed to see that post previously. And this one is how I do the trot and the canter. This is the kind of work that I do every day with my horse. He had had the day off before, so this one I'm taking a little bit more time stretching him down long and low than I do if he's, on day 2 or 3 of his workout. So you see here, I just ride him straight, nice long lines, really just kind of a quiet trot, nothing fancy. I'm just letting him go at the tempo that feels comfortable to him. If he was in the mood to speed up too much, I would half halt a little bit and slow him down. But you basically want to find what trot is most comfortable for your horse. Every horse is a little bit different. Some are more comfortable trotting a little bit faster. Some are comfortable a little bit slower. But the main thing is you want to find a tempo where your horse is relaxed and swingy. You can kind of see here the muscles on his hindquarter, over his back, and through his neck are bouncing a little bit. You can kind of see the movement and the swing and like the jiggle, especially across the hindquarter, which shows that he's trotting at a tempo where his muscles are relaxed and swingy. And this allows him to just kind of warm up the joints, get the synovial fluid in the joints going nicely, get the tendons warmed up a little bit so that I can prevent injury as I take him out of the warm-up into his FEI work that he's learning on. So you can see here, as I'm turning, I'm actually working on using my outside leg, outside rein, and my outside hip a little bit to turn him. So I first in the warm-up really try to establish a good outside aids on the horse. Make sure that they're turning and listening to my outside aids, staying straight in their body. And then you'll see here, I'll start to bend him around my inside leg. Like there, I use my inside hand a little bit in and to the left to kind of ask him to bring his head to the inside a little bit. That starts getting him to like supple and bend around my inside leg while staying on the outside aids. And then this here, I am adding in a little bit of leg yielding. And what happened when I put my inside leg on to ask him to step sideways, he actually stiffened his top line, got it like his trot felt a little flatter to me, and he started to rush. So that's why I did the downward transition, just to remind him not to run forward from my inside driving leg, but to step sideways away from it. And you can see just that little correction. Then the second time when I redid it, he stayed right with me, so I just kind of kept going. So there I did that a little bit. His outside shoulder, the right shoulder, was starting to kind of lead the leg yield there a little bit, and so I did that walk transition to half halt and kind of get that outside shoulder back underneath him so that his hindquarters and his shoulders were working together and staying in the alignment that we want for a leg yield. So the leg yielding exercise just kind of allows me to push him away from my outside aids while then catching him on my inside aids, making sure he's staying between both my legs, both my reins, and staying on both of my sitting bones as well. So now you'll see I start to add a little bit inside bending, preparing him there for that canter transition. And I just want a nice big fluid canter transition. Again, once I'm in the canter, I do the same thing that I do in the trot, which is I let him canter at a tempo that feels good to him. You can see he's got quite a long stride in the canter. And I try not to ask it to jump too much up and over the ground, as that's something that's a little bit harder for him, and I don't want him to do that in the warm-up. So I'll let the canter be a little bit more flat as long as I've got a clear 1, 2, 3 jumping rhythm going. I want him to be able to relax his neck down and just really just snuggle down on my seat, feel good in the contact. And then I'll add some transitions from trot to canter. With him being a schooling Grand Prix horse, I don't necessarily on a regular basis do a lot of trot canter transitions. Typically, a warm-up with him, I'll canter and do transitions within the canter. I'll speed him up, slow him down, collect him a little bit, send him a little bit more forward, and I do those transitions within the gates. But I know for a lot of riders watching this might be a little bit lower level. Maybe if you're doing training through the second level, you want to do a lot of trot canter transitions. So transitions with between the gaits. So I wanted to kind of show that here with him. And you can see he's starting to bring his neck up a little bit just through those transitions. He's forehand's coming up a little bit more. His hindquarters coming under him a little more. His pole's coming up a little bit. Transitions are a great way. Transitions within the gait and between the gait are a great way to rebalance the horse, get them on the hindquarter, and start to develop that show frame without you having to, hold and kick the horse and like force it together. You want it to come and be created naturally through the work. If you've done your job with the warm-up properly, you should be able to just like gradually bring the horse up, bring them more on the hindquarter. You can already see the transitions from trot to canter on the right lead here are a little bit more uphill. They're a little bit more put together. His canter's still fairly quiet, but it's got a little bit more active jump. Doesn't look quite as flat. And because he knows the flying change really well, I use those in the warm-up with him a lot as well. If your horse is really good at the flying changes and doesn't get excited and run, if they do relax flying changes, those are a great thing to throw in the warm-up as you change direction. That can really loosen up their hips, loosen up their shoulders, get a little bit more jump in the canter, get the natural engagement. So in that flying change, it was a clean flying change, but he kind of got flat and he fell kind of under my aids. It didn't feel very good. The timing wasn't really good. So I'm going to redo it. So I went back to the right lead, and now I'm going to come to the left lead again. And that one you can see he jumped uphill a little bit more, but there was a little bit more tension there. He didn't want to put quite the effort into the flying change. He was enjoying being relaxed and cantering around, relaxed, doing trot canter transitions, and wasn't quite energetic enough to do a really clean flying change there.